Student Creed. So in between bowing and the physical anchors that we use in the bowing sequence, we repeat our student creed. So it goes like this: we bow in, we step back out to ready position, and we do student creed, which is I will develop myself in a positive manner and avoid anything that could reduce my mental growth or physical health. I will develop self-discipline in order to bring out the best in myself and others. I will use my common sense before self-defense and never be abusive or offensive. This is a black belt school. We are dedicated. We are motivated. We're on a quest to be the best. Then we chamber, step out, and throw that first punch. Okay. And then we repeat the rest of that sequence. I wanted to recite the creed real quick and just kind of give you the bullet points of what it's for. The first part, we talk about developing in a positive manner, both mentally and physically. So controlling our focus, thinking about things that are going to be positive, trying to grow our mind and try to grow our physical skill set so that if we did need it for self-defense, it's there. We also talk about avoiding things that would be detrimental to your mental or physical health, right? So it's not just enough to do things that are good for you. It's also important to make good decisions and avoid things that would be negative. The second part, we talk about self-discipline in order to bring out the best in ourselves and others, right? Self-discipline is when you do the thing that you know you're supposed to do because you know you're supposed to do it. Nobody needs to tell you. You know you need to do it. It's kind of like brushing your teeth before you go to bed. And you just consistently take that action so that you're dependable, right? People can count on you to do the right thing, but you can also count on yourself to do the right things. And if you do that consistently, that self-discipline becomes an anchor or a foundation upon which you can build your other personal growth skills. The third thing we talk about is using common sense before self-defense, right? If you can diffuse a situation or if you can make a smarter choice than not be in a negative situation where you have to use your physical self-defense, that's always preferable to having to defend yourself, right? And then we talk about never being abusive or offensive. It is easy, especially in today's times and with the vocabulary we tend to use with our buddies, to sometimes say things that are a little bit cutting or a little bit um, unintentionally offensive, right? And just by being mindful of that and not saying something that you think is kind of cute just to make a dig or to engage your partner or your buddy in a kind of a quotes funny gouge or dig, avoiding that kind of thing and just building a more positive structured vocabulary tends to focus your mind on more positive things. And also it kind of goes back to that self-discipline thing. People recognize how you're going to interact with them and they learn what they can depend on in your behavior. And the last thing is we talk about this is a black belt school. We are dedicated, we're motivated, we're on a quest to be our best. Being a black belt school doesn't just mean that we have a structured curriculum to help you earn your black belt. Of course we do, right? But we also have a very structured way of moving through the belts so that students can achieve, measure achievement, and then be rewarded in a consistent way. So that's super important. The other thing is when we talk about being a black belt, we're not just talking about the piece of cloth. We're talking about the personal growth opportunities that happen along the way and what happens to a person who commits to that kind of personal growth and that kind of achievement, right? It's not so much where you end up. It really is kind of the journey to get from white belt to black belt and all the things that happen and all the things that you learn along the way. So when we talk about that, we really mean that we're in a positive place and that we're making positive decisions to grow in a very specific way. And then being on a quest to be your best is it's a really important for two reasons. One, we talk about being our own personal best, right? Everybody's a little different. Everybody's trajectory from white belt to black belt is different. We all bring different skills to the table and we also bring different challenges. And so the way we get from A to Z is going to be a little bit different. The shape of the curve between A and Z will be a little bit different for each person. But by saying that you're going to be your own personal best, that encompasses a couple of things. It lets you be the best you can be today, right? You don't have to be the best you're ever going to get, but you have to be your best personal best today. And also you're judging yourself on your growth, on your personal incremental growth, right? So if you happen to be very physically talented, you may not grow as quickly in physical ways because you already have a big skill set, right? And you may have to focus your growth a little bit more on some of the internal pieces and parts of becoming a black belt. Or it may be that that you haven't done a lot of sports, and even though you have decent physical attributes, you've never really exercised them, right? So you may feel physical growth really quickly because, you pick things up easy. You just had never been in a structured environment where you got to do that kind of stuff. So, like I said, everybody's going to grow a little bit differently. As long as you are improving, um, either mentally, physically, or emotionally, then we're on the right path. And it is really a combined effort between what the student does and how the instructor guides the student and designs the classes that will get you from your white belt to your black belt. So when we say it's a black belt school, we really mean we're invested with the student in making sure that we tailor those experiences in the appropriate individual way to help each person grow, right? And of course, each student takes that same responsibility or takes a chunk of that responsibility to make their own personal growth fit in that in whatever their curve is to get to that end point, right? Okay, so that kind of explains how the creed part works, and we're going to do that as we start every single class. It becomes an anchor, mentally and physically, right? Mentally, because you're saying the words of the creed, and presumably you think about those words as you go. We will also reference those in mat chats and discussions in class. So it's not just something we say, it's something we revisit consistently. But then we anchor that through some physical mechanics and some physical energy expense that makes it exciting so that it anchors better in your mind. All right, hope that was helpful. Hope that makes the Creed stuff make sense. And then I'll go over individual techniques that we use in that bow-in sequence on separate video, and you'll be able to practice that to make sure you're ready for when you hit your first group class. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.